So,
Supposed to leave here.
He's here, but his audio's not connected.
who?
Lee's here, but his audio's not.
To connect his audio.
Oh, okay.
Who else is here?
We've also got Jennifer.
We've got Jennifer.
Oh, why would? That's a bit. Hey, you can't save the day if you do that.
So we're just waiting for him to connect, are we?
Yeah.
He hasn't joined with audio, so.
So Jennifer is here.
So should we roll
Yeah.
with Jen?
Would you like to come to the table, Jennifer? We'll start with you. We're waiting to fix our Zoom connection.
Yeah, so.
We can roll with Jen.
Yeah, and then if you. Still hasn't gotten in a couple.
And is it Barry as well?
Yeah.
Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Right. Can you? Before we start the next one.
Oh, we are. We're undoing Jennifer. Okay, welcome. Your time starts now. You have 5 minutes.
Before the next one, I'll just.
Of Cashmere Road. We've been there over 18 years. We've seen a lot of changes and a lot of it's been positive, but I don't see the cycleway as being a positive thing. I think an opportunity has been missed, that there is a chance of taking the cycleway off a busy road and taking it through likes of the parkland, the new subdivision along the road, linking with Sparks Road cycleway, linking or going through Kaiwara Reserve. I think there are many ways around it, and when I have questioned this with, I can't even remember who it was I was talking to, they said, oh no, too much has been paid out for plans already, so we can't change things. Well, to me, there's been a lack of consultation with the residents and with the people who are actually being quite affected by this. You know, taking away all our street parking. A lot of us are getting older. We have elderly relatives that visit. And yeah, I think it's short-sighted in the fact too that there's a bottleneck at the Craycroft shops over the bridge there. Why would you want to channel more cyclists through there when it's so damn dangerous as it is? Henderson's Reserve, the wetlands down there, I would love to be able to walk down there. I don't trust that road. So to me, there are issues that need to be addressed before the cycleway is put in. I do feel that there's been a lack of consultation with people, a lack of communication. Our neighbours, the house is a rental and the tenants have just moved out, and I was speaking to the owners, they knew nothing about it. Now this is going to affect their ability to rent the place, it's going to affect values on our properties as well. It's going to cause danger to people backing out of driveways. It's going to be dangerous for the vehicles. It's going to be dangerous for the cyclists, pedestrians. Also, buses stopping in the middle of a lane when it's a narrow carriageway. That just causes frustration. That causes, it irritates so many people. Yeah. I just don't see that as being a good idea. Also rubbish days, rubbish trucks, how do they deal with a busy road? I mean, traffic builds up sometimes nearly to Westmoreland in the mornings from the traffic lights at Hoon Hay Corner. How's it going to work with rubbish vehicles? I just haven't had anything from anyone to tell me how any of this is going to work, to make it make sense in my mind. The pelotons aren't going to use cycle lanes. They're still going to use the road. To me, either having a cycleway on one side, retaining some parking, or somehow doing something to make the white lines more usable. Probably the best thing would be to slow traffic down, reduce the speed limit along there. One other concern I have is the lump in the road that's going to be outside Oderings. My house shakes as it is especially with the EV buses. There are lots of commercial trucks and that use the road. I just can't see how vehicles are going to not cause disruption hitting that and shaking my house. I mean, I have had guests who have thought we were having another earthquake. I mean, we're used to it. It's just the thought of what it's actually doing to the structure of my place. But there is a lot more to it than we've been led to believe. And I can see why people would think cycleways are great. They are. They improve safety. I think it was actually a very leading question. Will it improve cycle safety? Well, you get a lot of yes answers to that, because yes, it will if it goes ahead. But there's a lot more to it. And I think the council, you're my council too. And I think my thoughts need to be taken into that. My feelings need to be accounted for as well. I'm just trying to see what else I have. Do you have anything to? No. But I really think that the gauntlet, as I heard it described earlier, and the Henderson's Road wetlands area, they need to be dealt with before this goes ahead. Reducing speed, I think, is perhaps and infill housing, that there is going to be, I see so many places built around town that have no parking. It's not so much the case along our stretch of road yet, but that will be coming. And we still need transport, we still need deliveries, I've just had some renovations done on my house, we still need tradespeople around, and there needs to be accessibility and parking for all those people. On the preschool, the preschool is a wonderful little centre.
We've just had them in speaking to us very clearly. So thank you, Jennifer. Your time is up now. Really appreciate you making the effort to come in, and we have listened to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to welcome Lee Hodgson on Zoom. I think we've got the technical things sorted now. Are you there, Lee?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Fire away.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to read something because speaking to people in this manner is a little intimidating. My family has lived in Simeon Street for over 100 years. My house was built in 1920 by Frederick and Georgina Hogston. My son is the 5th generation of my family to live in the house, and I'm the 3rd generation to own it. And my house is my heritage, and when I pass it on to my son, it will be my legacy. I have a disability. Reversing from a driveway into traffic is virtually impossible for me and frankly dangerous. As such, I reverse up my driveway instead so I can safely drive forward off my property into traffic. Currently, I pull over, and when the way is clear, I safely perform my manoeuvre and reverse up my driveway. The proposed cycle path along the eastbound side of Simeon Street will remove all safe stopping for vehicles. Once installed, there will be no provision for a car to leave the road and stop roadside. This means for me, I will no longer be able to stop safely and have the space to manoeuvre and reverse straight into my property. This will cause me great hardship, as it will diminish my ability to safely come and go from my property, in turn have a very negative effect on my quality of life. I urge you to reconsider such a heavy-handed cycleway design. You have other designs at your disposal. The street doesn't need over-engineering. There is space for everyone, if everyone is considered. The tagline is safer streets for everyone, safer for everyone to get around, but it won't be for me. My safety will be compromised every day, right on my doorstep. I can't do anything about my disability, but you can do something about this design. And if you're thinking, hey lady, if you don't like it, just move. Well, I'm not moving. My house is my home and my heritage and my legacy. I'm not going anywhere.
Thank you, Lee. I don't think anyone is suggesting that you should have to move, so don't get us wrong. Are there any questions for Lee? Councillor Coker.
Have you had a chance to talk to any council transport engineers?
For me personally, nobody's spoken to me. I filled out your form and then got a time to come and speak.
Okay, thanks.
didn't receive any visit or any calling card like was suggested in the pamphlet. I've had no visitation at all by anybody. I saw a guy with a thing on a stick up the street a few months ago. That was it.
Okay, well, we've got that noted. That's very helpful.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Chair?
and Lynette would like to ask you a question.
Would you be open to having a discussion with the staff? They could come out and understand the implications for you personally.
Yeah, I'd prefer to do that than in a public setting like this. Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you. We'll take that on board.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynette, and thank you, Lee. Thank you for your time.
No worries. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And now we have Andrew Reynolds. Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit hot and sweaty. I just cycled in from university. So hello, good afternoon everyone. My name's Andrew Reynolds. I have 5 main points I'd wish to cover today. The signal crossing on Milton Street should not be raised. Bidirectional cycleways that run beside roads I think are dangerous. Bus stops in the middle of the road are impractical and dangerous. Fire trucks will have problems getting out onto Coronation Street or Milton Street. Removing car parks in an area of housing intensification does not make any sense. My first point, the signal crossing on Milton Street should not be raised. Why design the signal crossing on Milton Street to be raised? What will vehicles do when the lights are green and they're travelling over 50 k's an hour down the street? They'll thump and bump over the raised area and cause damage to the road and sewer laterals underneath. How is a raised crossing any safer than a standard crossing? If a driver is unobservant enough to go through a red light and not see a pedestrian crossing, why would they notice there's a speed hump at all? The ground there is mostly clay and becomes very soft in winter with the high water table. We live very near the proposed crossing and we've had our sewer lateral repaired twice in the last 3 years by the council.
Okay.
It's a major job which costs me money up front for the drain layer to water blast and do a camera inspection. I'm sure it's very costly for the council as well. Raised speed humps will surely cause this problem to occur regularly, especially with heavy buses speeding up and slowing down and thumping over either side of the hump. My second point, bidirectional cycleways that run beside roads are dangerous. I've had many near misses on them. I cycle to work regularly and my route goes along the proposed cycleway, north up Simeon Street and up to Brougham. I then follow the cycleway alongside the motorway and end up going up Hanson's Lane. The most dangerous part of my cycle route to work is a bidirectional cycleway on Hanson's Lane. When I'm heading south on that cycleway, effectively cycling the wrong way down the street, vehicles going into and coming out of side streets don't see me on my bike. Drivers aren't looking for cyclists going in that direction. The worst instances are vehicles turning right into a side street. Drivers are only looking for vehicles and cyclists coming towards them. They can't even see me in their wing mirrors. Drivers go when there's a gap, and it's left up to me to make sure I don't get killed. My third point, bus stops in the middle of the road are impractical and dangerous. These were trialled on Hills Road and were reverted due to the issues they caused. I think the design of the exit from Simeon Street to Milton Street is far too narrow for buses. There'll be a backup of vehicles here. This proposal needs to be reconsidered. And my fourth point, fire trucks will have problems getting out onto Coronation Street or Milton Street. The fire station on Simeon Street, how is this fire truck supposed to get out of Simeon Street in an emergency? The worst exit will be at Milton Street where there are buses coming and going. If there's a bus stopped at the proposed bus stop in the middle of the road, there'll be nowhere for vehicles by the cycleway to move further left. The fire truck will be forced to go the wrong side of the road towards oncoming traffic at a blind corner. And my last point, removing car parks in an area of housing intensification does not make any sense. There are already a lot of cars parked either side of Simeon Street, and there are multiple new housing developments that have been built on the street, with many more being built. Most of these developments have only one car park, if that, for each unit. So there is an increasing demand or need for more car parks along Simeon Street, but this proposal is removing half of the existing parks. In my opinion, I think a simple cycleway, the old style with the green painted lines either side of the road would be sufficient. I understand there may be need for pedestrian crossings at either end, but I think this proposal is over-engineered is going to cause a lot of problems.
And do you think that a green painted cycle lane would be safe for a 5 or 6-year-old to go to Addington School?
Potentially not, but I'm sure their parents could escort them to school if they don't already. I know a lot of parents in that area are parking their cars at Addington School, which will become quite difficult for them to do as well with the proposed cycleway. I certainly wouldn't send a 5 or 6-year-old off to school cycling myself. I would go with them.
Thanks so much for that. With the increasing intensification in the area, the large number of homes going in, do you think that there will eventually be enough space even on street without the cycleway for everyone to be parking their cars?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So potentially not.
Do you think it might be better if we were able to provide people with another way of doing safe transport so that they didn't need their cars, so they weren't dependent on them?
Sure.
So that they felt safe.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for this opportunity to talk to you. My background is that I spent the first 6 months of this year living on Sugden Street, so very close to Simeon Street. And we've now returned to the house that we own, which is right directly across from the Norwest Arc. So I'm a homeowner who's really used to having a cycleway next door. I walk and I cycle and I drive through this neighbourhood every day. Generally not all three at once, but you know. The things that I wanted to highlight here are the role of intersections and intersection design, and just how important it is to get a better treatment of these intersections, which is why I support the cycleway. There's massive contention at the Brougham Street intersection because it's a choke point for 3 transport modes, and people on foot, people on a bike, people on car are all competing for a pretty limited space to get access to Brougham Street. Especially in the morning when the school run is happening and people are commuting to work. It's actually really unfortunate for people on foot because there isn't enough space for bikes queuing up to go across the intersection. So anything that helps separate those modes and provide them with more space is going to be a really good thing. On Coronation Street, the big issue that I mentioned in my submission is that it's not aligned. And if you don't ride a bike, you might not understand why this is a problem. But what happens is that with bikes, as with cars, you don't want to be going fast and turning at speed. So if you're coming along Simeon Street, trying to get into the next bit of Simeon Street across Coronation, and you're waiting for a gap, you want to be really caning it to get through that gap when it's busy. But then you have to do a hard turn to get into the next bit of Simeon Street. You also will find that you have cars breathing down your neck if you, as we say, take the lane. So you have to do it from the left, and you probably lose your opportunity there as well. So any time when there is reasonable traffic, again, I'm going to allude to the school run, that's going to become a theme, it's really, really difficult to cross here. And that goes for people on foot as much as it does for people on bikes. So I want you to consider that when we redo these intersections, everybody who is on foot or in a wheelchair or on a scooter or something that is not a car is going to be better off. The third thing I wanted to point out is Milton Street, again a theme, the school run, but also peak traffic. It is very difficult to cross if you are not an able-fit cyclist in a small gap. It's also really difficult for people on foot even to reach the pedestrian refuge in the middle. So I walk around there quite a lot and I repeatedly see older people, often with shopping, because they've been to Barrington Mall, waiting to cross and they can't even get to the pedestrian refuge. So better treatment there is really going to help them. And that brings why do you want to do something here? The reason is Antigua Street's really good, Antigua Strickland. But if you're heading towards Barrington Mall or to the side, Selwyn Street is dangerous, the intersections with Brougham and with Coronation Street in particular. Barrington Street is a mess. It doesn't even have a complete cycle lane and the mall makes it really hazardous. So Simeon Street is a really good route if you're on a bike. It's the safest place to be that avoids those other two streets. I want to quickly refer to the good things here. So I've talked about the school run a lot. When we enable more kids to ride a bike to school, we diminish the need for the school run. Like, I think we are not understanding that when children gain independence and mobility and the ability to exercise, and their parents don't have to escort them because it's safer, there won't be so many cars on that street at peak times. And that's good for everyone, whether they're walking or they're on a bike or they're on a car. As far as future growth goes, if we're going to put more and more people into Christchurch, as we will, motorised traffic is going to get more and more intense, and providing other options is the safety valve that is going to make it still okay to drive and nice to drive for people who need to drive and want to drive. But as it is, if you need to or want to do other things, you don't have that option. And finally, I just want to return to this theme of benefits for people who are not on bikes. So one of the things that I see regularly on the Norwest Arc right next to my house is people on scooters, older people on mobility scooters, people in motorised wheelchairs all making use of this facility. And when you have that really attractive destination of Barrington Mall next door, this is going to unlock that for people who can't drive or who find driving difficult and hazardous. Thanks.
Thanks so much. So you mentioned that you live adjacent to the Norwest Arc, and I know
Yes.
that there were similar concerns from residents about the impact of the cycleway on their homes and their neighbourhoods. So could you just briefly describe the impact of having the cycleway near your place, and whether people's fears had been...
My observation is no, but I mean, if you want to concretise that, homes.co.nz tells me the value of my home's been going up steadily ever since. So that's an important data point
So
for
that's
you.
a positive impact.
But I don't see the so to be clear, I live near the Domain Terrace area, so there's increasing densification around there, as you'll know. Don't particularly see the struggle for parking on the street. It's the biggest issue is on a Sunday morning with the Baptist church there, and they're very considerate parkers. It's not a big deal.
Great, thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Patricia. Sipdaga. Hello.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
So you've got 5 minutes.
Okay, so I live in 235 Barrington Street, and that is right beside the church, St Nick's Church, on Barrington Street, beside Milton and Frankley. And I haven't really looked at the plan. I haven't been able to see exactly what you're looking to do other than to bring to this forum just really the issues I can see that are happening on Milton Street and Frankley. Okay, the issues I can see that are happening is there's intensification happening down in Horswell. The traffic is bumper to bumper at times, and we have multiple accidents on that corner, on the corner of Frankley and Milton. The cars, when they get to Simeon Street, people can't cross the road. There are lots of children and traffic that come down Simeon and onto Milton, and then head down Frankley, and vice versa. And it's getting busier and busier. If you're looking at the area that I actually live in, there's 3 business driveways that are all within 20 metres of each other, and trucks are coming and going and from that particular space. That's from the church to Athelston. So we've got trucks, delivery trucks, huge big trucks going into Oderings. They come out of Oderings actually, and that is where my house is. So we've already got lots and lots of traffic happening in between in a 20-metre area, and there's lights at Athelston and there's lights at Milton and frankly Barrington. So the accidents that are had there's loads of them. Lots of them are not reported. People being knocked off bikes already. So I just hope that this information that I'm giving, it's not as specific as a gentleman before me, but pretty much that it needs to be slowed down. The traffic needs to be slowed down. I don't know that we need more cycleways, and particularly not on Milton Street or bus stops that are actually in the middle of the road. They're dangerous. And right now, you are not going to slow traffic. We've got lots of people from Cashmere that are turning off into Franklin as well. So they're not going the long way because there's now intensification house at Kennedy's Bushway. So they've just finished all the houses there. So it's getting busier and busier. And I drive to Lincoln every day down Franklin, Monday to Friday, and it's bumper to bumper already, and really dangerous when you hit Hoonhay. So it's bumper to bumper, and you've got businesses on corners, and it's just creating havoc. Parking will be shocking. They've already taken away a lot of parking along Barrington, particularly in that 20-metre area where you've got 3 business areas that are having pickups, drop-offs.
That's really helpful. It's always good to hear the local voice in these things, so appreciate you coming in.
Just one last thing. We have lots of people from the old people's homes that come down Milton on their mobility scooters, also down from Cashmere View. And also there's a few old people's homes down on Rose Street.
Yes.
And I've noticed a lot of them actually come along there.
Right. Thank you. Are there any questions for Patricia? Anyone? No, not today. Thank you very much for making the time to come in.
Thank you.
And now we have Nigel Grant Urquhart, please. Oh, here's a question.
Hello.
Welcome.
I live at 195 Cashmere Road. I firstly want to say I am quite disgusted by the lack of consultation and the fact that work has already started, money being spent on this process before we've even decided whether this is a good idea for the community. Council wastes a lot of money as it is, and you're going to start doing work before this has even been approved.
Is that correct? No.
There's an amazing cycleway on Sparks Road, one major street over from us in Cashmere Road. I feel it's crazy to have another one put in one block over. We've lived where we are for 20 years. We have a 94 and 96-year-old grandparents that will no longer be able to visit us if this type of cycleway is put in. I'd love to know if you've done any research as to the number of cyclists coming along Cashmere Road, because I did a count last Friday after I'd been bitten by a student. I'm a special needs teacher, and there were 13 students biking towards Cashmere High School, 14 coming back between 3 and 4. Now these numbers, compared to the cars and the traffic, the amount of elderly people that live along our street, and not enabling them to have parking, how you're going to get people in and out of the childcare centre, it really doesn't make any sense. I'd love to know, the councillor over here in the middle with the dark hair said we would like to get cars off the road or something along that effect. How you're managing to get less cars on the roads. So I understand that cycling's a great thing to do. My kids cycle all the time. By the time they're 13, they should be able to manage it on the roads themselves. They don't need cycle lanes. Yes, it's great when they use them, but not every road needs them. I'm, as I say, bitterly disappointed by the lack of consultation. We received a bit of paper with supposedly photos of what the plan was. It was impossible to read, and you're trying to get people to make decisions on this with really poorly informed consultation. the bus lanes, the fire, the rubbish, the pelotons of cyclists who are our main cyclists on Cashmere Road. They are not going to use the cycle lanes, and they are going to clog up traffic, and they will cause incidents and possibly death.
Right. Thank you. There's time for a couple of questions. Have you finished your presentation, Mike?
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got Councillor Coker, McClellan and Scandrett. We're quick.
Do you think that more school students would bike along Cashmere Road if there was dedicated cycling space for them?
No, they're high school students. Like, if you can ride a bike, it's not a big deal.
McClellan?
I could restate it. So you don't think it's possible that if we built this cycleway, that we wouldn't have any uptake in cycling along this road at all?
Oh, you would, but the majority of cyclists
Yeah.
are people that are out cycling.
Yeah, current
Right.
cyclists. So.
You know, they're not going from one place to another or biking to Cashmere High School, for example. So I think there's a big difference between types of cyclists. You know, people biking to work or going to school, I'd say they'd be lucky to be 20% of the cyclists that we see along Cashmere Road. I'd say at least 80% of them are big groups of cyclists, and if there's no room for people to pass them in a car, people driving cars are going to get frustrated.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Scandrett?
What are your thoughts with regards to a number of people, including the daycare, etc., have said retain parking on one side and take it out on the other side? So the preference would be taking the parking out. Or I say preference. It seems that the general consensus from those mentioning it would be taking the parking out on the hillside and keeping it on the city side. Your thoughts?
Look, I think one side is a much better plan than both sides. Whatever side you decide to do it. As I say, the biggest issue for me with cycling is either way, when you get to the bridge, just past the dairy there before you get to Princess Margaret, and then at the other end of Cashmere Road, you know, it's plenty wide enough once you've passed all the houses, you know, so it's only a short lot. But then you get to that corner and it is so dangerous biking along Henderson's Road there. There is no room because the road is so narrow. However, you've got the room to extend it out there. I'm more worried about where the road is narrow, people need to park, and not having the space.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Cheers.
one last question from Councillor Donovan, quickly.
The brunette.
Hi.
I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on reducing congestion without getting people out of cars?
Well, the housing development is, as we all know, if you drive through Hallswell, lots of different areas, there's just so many houses coming. So our roading intensification is something I don't see you're going to stop. You know, we're not going to have light railway, we're not going to have buses run on time because our roads are too narrow as it is. So they will be upsetting traffic, slowing down traffic. It's only just going to get worse and worse. And if we narrow our streets, I think there's going to be a massive danger. I struggle to get in and out of our driveway as it is. We have to back in. So if I'm stopping and backing in through a cycle lane, when the streets are so narrow, usually I pull in. I mean, a bus stops over my driveway as it is. You know, I just, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. Thanks very much.
Cool, thank you.
So just clarifying, Rebecca's not here. No. So Raviv Karasuk.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
So my name is Raviv Karasuk. Between 7:30 till about 4:30. Before that and after that, I usually call myself nobody. Because I ride the cycleways and a lot of people around me, and we all nobodies because nobody uses the cycleway. I live in Hunhei. I work at Ensos Road. Now, I'm really afraid that in about 10 years' time, my commuting time on that bicycle not going to change. I've been riding here for the last 15 years. The time it takes me on the bike to go from one side of the town to another doesn't change. I do about 6,000 Ks a year on the bike. I do similar amount of slightly more during my work. I work with correction. I'm a community work supervisor. I plant trees. At the moment, we work a lot in the red zone. We just planted 10,000 trees in the red zone in the last 2 months. I'm afraid that in about 10 years' time, I won't have time to plant trees because I'll be stuck in traffic. We all spoke about how much houses going into Holswell. That's not the problem. Christchurch is going to be one big city from Rolleston, Lincoln, Taitap, Pegasus, Rangiora, and so forth. You need to think now what you need to do so in 20 years' time, we're not in a gridlock. Auckland did it 20 years ago. They brought light rail. We need light rail in New Zealand, in Christchurch. They brought public transport. The one thing that we did well is the cycleways. As I said, I'm a nobody, and I have nobody traffic jams already. I see the amount of parents take their kids to school on bike gone dramatically high. So all the small connection between the big fancy cycleways are important so people to be able to get to them. Because what prevents people riding a bike is the fear. And if you have a separated cycleway, people are happy to use it, including older. I ride along Milton Road, and the amount of time I need to win between old people on mobility scooter is lovely, and I'm happy to see it. Because I know now they have a safe way to use their mobility scooter. As I say, I work at Enso's Road, so I really think that the connection along Enso's Road is important. Again, the cycleways we have the plan to do should have been done, as we know, 10 years ago. We're not going why it haven't been done, but we need to look on the next stage of connecting those cycleways with proper cycleways. Because otherwise, in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, we're just going to be bumper to bumper. The one thing that came good from the cycleways along Milton Road, for example, the removal of the 3 roundabout and making traffic lights actually made roading better for everybody, not just for cyclists. So please continue to do cycleways and give people the option. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raviv. Are there any questions, Raviv? I particularly like your comments of we need to be thinking out and planning, which is what some cities failed to do. So appreciate your comments. Thank you very much for coming in. Melanie Jane and Owen Smith. That's our last one, is it?
That's the last one here.
Thank you for being here a little bit early. That's really helpful. Appreciate it.
I'm glad we were. Thank you. So, tēnā koutou katoa. We are Melanie and Owen. Thank you for the opportunity to raise our concerns around the Westmoreland Cycle Connection proposal today. Our home is in Cashmere Road, which is somewhat clinically referred to in the plans you've seen as a corridor, but actually it's a suburban street where we and our neighbours live and operate businesses and go about our daily lives, and we've made our home there for the last 15 years. Our main concern with the proposal is the drastic removal of all on-street car parks for hundreds of metres on our street. The initial project information pamphlet stated the removal of some car parks. We were thus very shocked and disappointed to see the proposal, and more recently the amended proposal, showing all the parks on our street gone. We are struggling to find another situation in the city where all parks have been sacrificed to accommodate a cycleway. All the other cycleway examples we've encountered have at least some car park provision. We use the car parks on our street, as does Nigel, he's our neighbour, on a daily basis, and feel distressed that under this proposal they will all be removed and replaced with a cycleway that, sadly, for various reasons, we will seldom if ever use. On-street parking is an essential aspect in our lives on this busy road, enabling us to safely enter and egress our property. For example, we always back into our driveway so we can make a safe, well-sited exit in the morning onto busy traffic. This involves parking in the on-street park outside our gate when arriving home, and often waiting till later to safely back our car into our driveway when traffic flow is reduced. Our family, friends, or service people who visit us use the car parks near us rather than driving into our driveway and having to back out into dangerously busy traffic. We're also concerned that the information in the consultation process of this proposal has been extremely rushed, and the people in our street are not adequately informed. The latest updated proposal has only been made available to residents a week before today's submissions and tomorrow's decision. I ask you, is 1 week sufficient or an equitable time frame for an impactful proposal such as this? So in a quick canvass of our 12 nearest neighbours, that's all I've had time for since I received the amended proposal, most folk I talked to had not even seen the latest proposal or did not know how to access it. So I was shocked to discover that many were not very well informed about the project details. Everyone I spoke to was opposed to it in some way, largely due to the loss of parking. One cyclist neighbour who rides the route every day that I spoke to, he rides that route amongst other streets and cycleways all over the city, and he said he felt the road does not warrant such a drastic treatment. On the topic of my conversations with our neighbours, other residents had not been able to engage with the online consultation process due to not owning or being confident in using a computer, so their voice has not been heard. Sadly, most also felt that no one was going to listen to their concerns and even felt that the decision was a foregone conclusion and that they would not be able to have a say in, despite having very real concerns. So I ask you, is this how the council wants the community it serves to feel? We believe that trust in the council is being eroded by rushing through this inflexible proposal to capitalise on Transport Choices funding with its attendant restrictions and short time frame. The proposal as it stands is not in the best interests of a significant number of residents and certainly doesn't champion any of the council's strategic priorities other than emissions reduction. But at what cost to all the other priorities, such as being inclusive and equitable, promoting well-being, building trust and confidence in the council, managing ratepayer money wisely and balancing needs, leaving no one behind. We feel these essential priorities are all being eclipsed by a race to reduce emissions. On that note, we'd like to make the point that we're very much committed to being kaitiaki or caretakers of the natural environment. We're involved on a daily basis in building the soil, microbiome and grow a flourishing diversity of plant life in our food garden. We've also invested in a hybrid car as soon as we could afford to reduce our own emissions. However, we believe emissions reduction is only one part of a complex environmental picture and should not be prioritised at the expense of loss of trust or partial solutions that are clearly inequitable. So looking at the survey numbers for the project, so please refer to your pie charts on page 20 of your agenda. We don't feel the community has given the council a clear mandate for this project to proceed in its current form, and our own discussions with our neighbours have further reinforced this. On the online survey, council carried out, only an underwhelming 36% of respondents agreed, whilst a close 31% disagreed with the proposal. The don't know and the somewhat vote amounted to another 32%. The somewhat vote appears to have been...
Melanie, your time is up, so can you just...
Yes, I'm very nearly there.
Thank you.
Yep, I'm just trying to slow down so that you can hear. The somewhat vote appears to have been optimistically interpreted as agreement. We feel that such a negatively impacting proposal needs to have very clear numbers and support from the impacted area. Plus, some drilling down into the somewhat vote needs to occur, as many of these folk may not agree fully and may, like ourselves, have suggested some good alternatives, which have been swept aside to meet the funding pool restrictions. Another concern we have was the consultation process, and stakeholders in Westmoreland and Cashmere Road, whose needs and impacts are vastly different, have had all their issues lumped together in the one consultation. We and all the neighbours we have talked to are very worried about the impact of zero on-street parking on our property values. We're very invested in our home here, and it's extremely concerning that our property's value will be compromised by the loss of all on-street parking. I'm about to finish, so don't panic. We want cyclists to be safe on Cashmere Road, and as long-time residents here, having also brought up children here, we believe that speed is a major issue. To this end, we strongly advocate reducing the speed limit along our street to 30 or 40 kilometres an hour at the earliest convenience, to create that way safer passage for cyclists that you're looking for. We urge you to vote to pause cycleway plans until impacted residents can be properly consulted and a more equitable solution for all stakeholders can be reached. Thank you for your consideration of our concerns.
Appreciate that. And I'll just ask, is the Cashmere Road on the speed limit?
Cashmere Road is, for the information for everybody, Cashmere Road is, and particularly the corner that everyone's referred to as the Gauntlet corner, that Craycroft Budge, is proposed in the speed management plan, which is out for consultation at the moment, to be reduced in speed. So that is already underway.
It's happening at the moment if you want to feedback on that as well. And even though your time's up, I'm going to allow Councillor Scandrett a quick question.
The question that I asked earlier is parking on one side of the street rather than no parking. So the general consensus for those questions, or those that mentioned it, was to keep the parking on the city side and remove it from the hillside, which would then, in the future, when we go around Henderson's Road, would actually work out better. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that would still take our immediate car parks, so some of our issues with getting into our driveway would be impacted by that. However, we're not selfish individuals, and we understand that some car parks along there, even if they don't directly advantage us, are better for everyone. And I particularly am concerned for the preschool across the road, and to enable some car parks for them. I'd love to see that happen, and you know, that would be more of a win-win situation than just scuppering them all. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Sorry, we don't have time. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of our submissions for today. So we'll adjourn and reconvene at 9 a.m. tomorrow. 9 a.m. And I think Lynette has got something to say.
Just wanted to clarify one thing. There has been some service location work done on some of the sites, so that's to aid the design. There isn't construction starting on any of the contracts.
No, so it's not a done deal. It hasn't started. This is
it's just. There is some service location work which will involve trucks and cutting and that sort of thing, but it's to find services. Okay. Yeah, so that we can design and plan better.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. See you in the morning.
Thank you.
No, we just adjourn.